You ever try to fix a problem by creating a bigger one? That's what I did. I tried to solve a mortgage issue using the financial equivalent of duct tape and a wink, and ended up with a deal so twisted it would have made the devil sweat. Let's rewind. I'm Eric Bennett, 41, mild caffeine addiction, and a firm believer in spreadsheets over surprises. I've been the chief financial manager at Cole & Hammer, a construction firm that pretends to be modest but throws launch parties like it's the Oscars. My job. Make sure the numbers match, the tax man stays quiet, and the lights stay on. I didn't plan on stealing money. Technically, I didn't. It was more like borrowing with intent to repay. A temporary loan. Semantics, sure, but important. Ones when your neck's on the corporate guillotine. See, Laura, my wife, had her eyes on this sleek modern house near the lake. Big windows, a kitchen island the size of a small country, and a master shower with more buttons than a spaceship. I said it was out of reach. She said, dreams don't wait. I stared at that down payment like it was a ticking bomb. Then one morning, half awake and wholly stupid, I slid a chunk of company money into my personal account. Just a few days. Just enough to close the deal, and then I'd shift it back before the quarter's audit. And you know what? I did. Clean as a whistle. No trace. I even congratulated myself with a bottle of decent bourbon and a smug look in the bathroom mirror. Then a week later, Jason Cole, the boss, the legend, the guy with a Rolex for every weekday, summoned me to his office with the kind of tone people use when they say, "We need to talk." Jason was everything I wasn't. Loud, tan, flashy. The kind of guy who orders whiskey he can't pronounce and drives a car with doors that lift instead of swing. And he didn't waste time. "I know," he said, flipping a folder onto the glass table. Inside, bank logs, account numbers, dates, screenshots. My fingerprints all over a financial crime that could tank my career, wreck my marriage, and get me booked on the 6 o'clock news right after the segment about puppy adoptions. I didn't lie. No point. I told him everything. That it was a temporary move, that I'd paid it back, that Laura didn't even know. Technically true, but it had been her idea. She'd cried on the couch about missing out on our forever home and mentioned, "You're the finance guy. Isn't there a way?" Jason sat back, tented his fingers like a man preparing to deliver a sermon, or a hit. "You know, Eric," he said, "I've always liked you. You're steady, reliable, the kind of guy I'd trust with my wallet." He smiled, not the kind that reaches the eyes. "That's why I'm not firing you, or calling the SEC. My heart kicked back into rhythm. Relief flooded in, but it didn't last. He leaned forward. "In return, I want something personal. Now, let me say, I've seen enough crime dramas to know nothing good follows a sentence like that. And I was right. Laura," he said. "She's stunning, classy, always looked a bit underappreciated." I blinked. "What are you saying?" He smiled wider. "Friday evenings, just a few hours, drinks, dinner, conversation. She's a grown woman. She can say no, of course, but if she doesn't, well, we both win." There it was. My freedom, neatly wrapped in sleaze. I walked home that night with cement in my shoes. Didn't eat, didn't turn on the TV, just sat in the dark, trying to think my way out of it. But it was like trying to backpedal out of quicksand. Eventually I told her, or rather I asked, like a coward. She didn't scream, didn't slap me, just stared, and then tears welled up. Not the sobbing kind, the quiet, dignified kind that make you feel like a monster. "If I say no," she whispered, "do we lose?" "The house?" I didn't answer. That Friday, Jason showed up at our door like he was picking her up for prom. Expensive jacket, smile full of teeth. He handed her a bottle of wine I couldn't afford, complimented her earrings, and said they'd be back by midnight. Laura looked different. Nervous, but curious. Like a student showing up for a dangerous new class. I stayed downstairs. sat in the den, turned on a podcast and pretended to listen, while my brain threw daggers at every creak from the ceiling. They were upstairs, our bedroom, probably my side of the bed. There's no sound in the world quite like hearing your wife laugh. From upstairs with another man while you sit in silence below. It's the kind of sound that drills into your skull and etches itself into your bones. By the time the front door opened at 11:52 p.m., I had memorized the grooves on our coffee table. Laura walked in, eyes wide, lips tight. Jason gave me a pat on the back, like a quarterback congratulating his water boy. "Thanks, buddy," he said. "She's amazing." That night, I didn't sleep, didn't speak, just laid there wondering how a temporary bank transfer turned into this sick little Friday tradition. And I knew. I had just made the kind of deal that doesn't stay small. Deals like this grow roots, deep, twisted ones that drag you somewhere you don't come back from. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Not even close. There's a sound you never forget. It's not the scream of a car crash or the final note of a love song. It's the way your wife laughs when someone else makes her feel alive. That Friday night, as I sat downstairs with a bottle of bourbon older than our marriage, I heard Laura laugh like she hadn't in years. And it wasn't for me. Let me back up. The first Friday was supposed to be a one-time deal. Just a favor. Just a way to keep the wolves off my back. At least, that's what I told myself. But wolves don't go away when they smell blood. They circle. Jason texted her the next week. Same time? No hesitation. Just a winking emoji and a dinner reservation at a place where the napkins are folded like origami, and the waiter whispers the specials like he's sharing state secrets. She went again and again, every Friday, 7 p.m., like clockwork. I stopped asking where they were going. She stopped offering. We drifted into this ritual where I pretended to sleep by 10, and she slipped in smelling like Dior and guilt around midnight. At first, she dressed casually, jeans, a sweater, hair in a bun. By the third Friday, the bun was gone. The lipstick was back. I noticed a new dress, something deep red, silky, the kind of thing she used to wear when we still bothered with anniversaries. One night, she wore heels I hadn't seen since my brother's wedding. That's when I realized this wasn't a transaction anymore. This was turning into a production. She tried to soften the blow, told me, "It's just physical. He's not you. He's a solution, a solution." Hell of a word. One Friday, I came home early and caught her putting on perfume I'd never smelled before. She sprayed it on her neck, smiled at her reflection, and gave herself a look I hadn't seen in a decade. I watched from the hallway, like a ghost in my own home. Jason started taking her out. Real dates now, fancy dinners, a spa weekend in Napa under the guise of a company retreat. I found a receipt for a silk lingerie set that cost more than our electricity bill. The label? Fleur de Mal. I Googled it. Of course I did. Even the website looked like it charged extra for eye contact. One night I tried to be casual. "So, where'd you go tonight?" I asked, pretending not to clench the armrest. She sipped her wine and said, "We had dinner at the Glass House. He ordered for me. It was nice." She didn't say romantic. She didn't need to. I laughed, bitterly. "Did he at least let you pick dessert?" She smiled. Not an apology. More like pity. That was the night I started losing sleep. I'd stare at the ceiling and count the seconds it took her to come home. My brain became a forensic lab, dissecting each word, each movement. Did she walk with a bounce now? Did she hum more? Was her hair always that soft, the worst part? She still kissed me on the cheek before bed. I started spiraling. Not out loud. I'm not the yelling type. I spiraled in silence, like a man watching termites chew through his floorboards, wondering when it would all collapse. Then came the hotel. It was her birthday. She said she'd be out late. That was all. She came back the next morning at 10:43 a.m., hair damp, a faint bruise on her collarbone. Too small to be noticed by someone not looking, but I was looking. I always was. I stayed at Diane's, she said. Diane, her sister, was halfway across the state. Strike one. That morning, I installed a recording app on her phone while she showered. It ran silently, syncing to my laptop. It wasn't legal, it wasn't ethical, but neither was any of this. The next Friday, I heard it. Jason, you looked stunning tonight. Like that French actress. What's her name? The one with the lips. Laura laughed. Not the laugh from our wedding video, not the polite kind she gave my boss at Christmas parties. This one was rich, effortless, and real. Then her voice dropped, almost a whisper. We have to stop. Eric, he's falling apart. Jason. That's why we can't stop. You're helping him, giving him time to get back on his feet. She was quiet. Then she said, just promise me you'll keep it discreet. Discreet. Like this was an affair that came with terms and conditions. I slammed the laptop shut so hard the screen flickered. My hands shook, not from rage, from clarity. This wasn't just about me anymore. It wasn't even about her. Jason had threaded himself through our lives like a cancer with charm and a credit limit. The following Monday, Jason called me into his office. He was all grins and teeth. Listen, he said, pouring us each a glass of something amber and absurdly expensive. I need a favor. There's a site in Portland. Couple audits, nothing major. I need you there, just a few days. I knew what it was, a distraction, a way to keep me out of the way while he played house with my wife. I accepted. Smiled. Drank the whiskey. Packed my bags with the calm precision of a man preparing for war. Before I left, I told Laura, you two enjoy your weekend. She blinked. What do you mean? I mean, I said, I won't be around to pretend anymore. So do whatever it is you've been pretending not to do. I didn't wait for a response. At the airport, I pulled up her call logs, watched as Jason's name lit up less than 20 minutes after I left the house. That night, they talked for 43 minutes. The next night, 76. I took notes. Every time-stamp, every text, every lie. By the time I flew back, I had a plan, not just a petty revenge, a carefully calculated, slow-burn justice, a plan designed not to hurt, but to dismantle. And the first step was figuring out just how far they'd already gone. I wasn't interested in pornographic proof. I wanted evidence that would hit where it mattered. Reputation, trust, control. What I found. Let's just say it came in the form of a 20-second video clip that would eventually go viral in 3 separate family group chats. But that's a story for the next part. Because the moment I returned, I walked into our kitchen, and Laura, thinking I was still away, was on the phone with Jason. She said, it was a good idea, at first, but now it's falling apart. Eric's cracking. That's when it hit me. This whole thing wasn't an accident. It was planned, and I was the only one who hadn't been clued in. When I came back from Portland, I didn't kiss her hello. I didn't ask how her weekend was. I dropped my bag by the door, opened the fridge, poured orange juice into a coffee mug, and asked one simple question. Did he spend the night here? She blinked like I'd spoken in Morse code. What? No. Her voice cracked halfway through the word, like a radio signal cutting out. She adjusted her robe, not the old cotton one, but the new one with lace around the sleeves that Jason probably picked out. Her hair was damp, nails freshly done, no ring on her finger. I smiled. Not the warm kind. The kind you give a chess opponent before moving the queen. Good, I said. Because I'd hate to think you were lying. She narrowed her eyes. Eric, what are you talking about? But I was already halfway up the stairs. I didn't yell, didn't accuse. That would come later, on my terms. First, I needed proof. Not proof of the obvious. Everyone knew what was happening. But something more surgical. Something that wouldn't just expose the lie, but make it radioactive. That night, while she slept like a woman with no conscience and a high thread count pillowcase, I set up the camera. Not in the bedroom. That would be cliché. I chose the hallway, one small device tucked behind a fake smoke detector with a view of our bedroom door and the upstairs landing. Motion activated, silent, clean. And then I waited. 2 Fridays later, I pretended to have drinks with an old college friend, someone who didn't exist. Laura put on a pearl necklace she hadn't worn since our 5th anniversary and slipped into heels designed to be removed slowly. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "Don't. Wait up." I didn't. I drove around the block and parked under a dead street lamp, listened to a podcast about financial fraud while watching my own marriage rot from the outside in. Jason arrived at 7:48 p.m. in that ridiculous electric car of his, the kind with doors that open like a middle finger. He didn't knock. He walked in like he owned the place, and in a way, he did. At 9:31 p.m., the hallway camera caught them. No nudity, no kissing. Just the two of them in the upstairs landing. Laura wearing that necklace. Jason holding a wine glass. Both of them. Giggling like teenagers at prom. Then he leaned in, whispered something in her ear. She smiled and winked. That was the frame I used. Still image. No context. Just enough to suggest a story. Just vague enough to let the viewer fill in the blanks with their own flavor of scandal. I didn't send it to HR. I didn't leak it to the press. I emailed it to 3 people, her sister Diane, her cousin Rachel, who ran a gossip-heavy Facebook group called Married and Suspicious, and my brother Kyle, who had the subtlety of a car alarm and zero impulse control. Subject line, "Thought you should know." Sender, anonymous@protonmail.com. Within 2 hours, it had bounced across a dozen inboxes. Diane called twice. Laura ignored both. She was too busy posting a filtered photo of her date night wine glass on Instagram with the caption, "Self-care. Fridays." The next morning, the fallout began. Laura stormed into the kitchen holding her phone like it was covered in blood. "Did you do this?" she barked. I was flipping pancakes, calm, whistling. "Do what?" She shoved the phone in my face. My carefully curated still frame now lived on 3 Facebook threads, 1 private group chat, and had been shared with her yoga instructor, who sent back a concerned heart emoji and a link to a divorce attorney's website. "I trusted you," she said, voice trembling. I raised an eyebrow. "That's adorable." She didn't slap me. That would have made her feel better. Instead, she grabbed her keys and drove off barefoot, leaving behind 1 shoe and half a plan. While she scrambled to put out digital fires, I went to phase 2. Jason. See, Jason had a second phone. Most cheaters do. It was hidden in his office drawer behind a false panel I discovered months ago while pretending to look for printer toner. Burner phone. Unlocked. Sloppy. I paid a guy I met on Reddit to spoof his SIM and clone the contents. $600 via Bitcoin, and I had access to Jason's entire second life. Texts, photos, calendar entries, including one that read, Friday, Laura, house. No initials, no codes. The man really thought he was untouchable. I walked into work. On Monday, like I'd just won the lottery. And in a way, I had. Because the jackpot wasn't cash, it was leverage. I left an envelope on Jason's desk at 6:15 a.m. before the office filled. Inside, a flash drive. A printout of the hallway still, a timestamp, and a sticky note that read, "I'm not bluffing." He called me at 8:02. "Eric, buddy, let's talk." "Let's," I said. "But not here. Your office still smells like betrayal." We met at a coffee shop downtown, the kind with overpriced lattes and walls lined with fake books. He wore sunglasses indoors, like a celebrity or a man hiding a black eye. He ordered espresso. I ordered tea. No one drank. I don't want this to escalate, he said. Then it shouldn't have started, I replied. He tried to smooth-talk me. Offered a promotion, more stock. A corner office with a view of the river and a private parking space labeled Eric B.I. laughed. You think this is about work? I leaned forward. I'm not staying. I've already accepted an offer. He blinked. You're bluffing. Am I? I slid over a list of names, 5 top clients, 3 engineers, 2 project leads, all coming with me to our competitor. Quietly, legally. Jason went pale. You'd destroy this company over her? He hissed. No, I said. Over you. That night I cleared out my office, left behind my ID badge and a single printed photo of Laura, the one from our honeymoon, where she's laughing at something I said. I looked at it for a second, then left it face down. I didn't go home. I went to a hotel. Slept like a man who'd just dug his way out of a grave. The next morning, I came back not to make peace, but to light the match. Jason pulled into the parking lot to find all 4 tires slashed. Laura was already there, pacing, holding her phone like it was a live grenade, and I was waiting, calm, precise, with one last envelope in hand. I showed up that morning with 2 things, a folder thick enough to terrify a mid-level politician, and the calm demeanor of a man who had finally vacuumed the last cockroach out of his house. Laura opened the door still in pajamas, the silk ones Jason gave her. Funny how, even after all this, she still dressed like a woman living in someone else's fantasy. I stepped past her without a word, set the folder on the table, and pulled out 2 copies of our divorce papers. Signed on my end, witnessed, dated. She stared at them like they were forged in fire. What is this? She asked. Closure, I said. And a way out. She looked at me. Not pleading. Not angry. Just hollow. Like a woman who ran out of stories to tell. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered. I didn't flinch. And yet, you did it anyway, repeatedly, with enthusiasm, on a schedule. She sat down slowly, scanning the pages. You're serious. As a tax audit, I said. Then I dropped the hammer. If you don't sign by noon, the video goes wide. Facebook, family, HR, and, for my own private joy, your college alumni newsletter. She flinched. You wouldn't. I slid over the flash drive, labeled simply Fridays. She didn't speak after that. Just signed, every page, pen barely shaking. Her signature looked neater than mine, like she'd practiced. When she finished, I stood. I'll have my lawyer pick it up. She asked the question I'd been waiting for. Was any of it real to you? I paused. Thought about answering kindly. Thought about the years, the laughter, the shared playlists, the nights we spent in that ridiculous backyard hammock she loved so much. But I just said, it was. Until it wasn't. Then I left. No dramatic goodbye. No slamming door. Just the sound of me taking my keys off the hook and never hanging them back up again. Jason didn't last a week. The clients I brought over, they didn't come quietly. They came with budget requests, timelines, and legal leverage. The engineers, gone. Project managers, gone. One even sent Jason a fruit basket with a note that read, "We prefer honesty over rooftop wine nights." That was a reference, of course, to one of Jason's more infamous team bonding sessions, where he served Chardonnay on his penthouse terrace and bragged about owning cufflinks made from the teeth of a retired NFL player. Don't ask. Rumors flew. Someone leaked a few choice texts from his burner phone. Nothing graphic, just enough to get the board nervous. By Thursday, HR had launched a quiet internal review. By Friday, Jason's car, newly retired, was seen parked outside a WeWork office downtown. That's the corporate version of couch surfing. By Monday, he was gone. Officially, he resigned. Unofficially, he was told to leave before someone started connecting too many dots between company funds, gift receipts, and Friday night expenses labeled client hospitality. As for the company, bankruptcy talks started by the end of the quarter. And the Christmas bonus fund? Rumor has it, Jason used it to charter a yacht off Tulum with a woman named Chloe, who spelled her name with 2 E's. Meanwhile, I was thriving. My new firm offered me a flexible schedule, a corner office, and full control over the books. The kind of control that comes with both trust and a corporate espresso machine that remembers your name. I worked 3 days a week, played golf on Thursdays, started sleeping again. Real sleep, not the haunted half-sleep of a man listening. For betrayal through the ceiling. And then Diane, Laura's sister, messaged me. It started simple. Hey, how are you holding up? Text. Nothing flirtatious, just real, which frankly was rare. We started talking. She was smart, witty, had a dark, dry sense of humor I never noticed before. The kind that doesn't try to impress you. It just exists, like gravity or sarcasm. One day she sent me a photo of a coffee cup with the words, single, but not stupid. I sent back, divorced, but upgraded. She replied, we should get coffee, real coffee, not the kind people drink while pretending everything's fine. I said yes. Our first date was at a bookstore cafe. She ordered black coffee. I ordered a croissant so flaky it reminded me of my ex-wife's moral compass. She laughed. A real one. The kind that wasn't meant for anyone else, and just like that, without effort, without deals, without threats, I felt normal again. Then came the cherry on top. A friend of mine sent me a screenshot from Laura's new Facebook account. She had changed her last name back, updated her relationship status to It's Complicated. Classic. Her profile picture was taken inside a small, sparsely furnished apartment. No art on the walls, no rugs, just a folding chair and a sad-looking plant trying its best near the window. The caption, starting over, no regrets, just lessons. I laughed out loud. Not cruelly, just amazed. No regrets? That was rich, coming from someone who thought Friday night was a lifestyle. Then I noticed a comment under her post from Diane. It said, wish you'd learned them a little earlier. I didn't reply, didn't have to. But later that night, Diane sent me a text, just 5 words. You free this weekend, Eric? I stared at it, smiled, and replied, only if it's not Friday.